So we just talked to Bethany in Kuna, and her 6-year-old likes to lie a little bit. And at first, it was kind of just like goofy lies. And now it's like, oh, I don't have any homework, and just like straight up lies all the time. And trying to figure that out, how do you handle it? 208-468-1027. You can call us or text us on the Idaho BMI text line at 68719. Let's go out to Parma, where Christina is with us. Christina, how do you handle this when your child has a little bit of a lying problem at a young age?
So my recommendation would actually be what I like to call kind of like this lying journal. I recently went to a conference with a company called Healing Children that deal a lot with kind of traumatic issues for children.
Uh-huh.
And their recommendation is this lying journal, where anytime you feel like your child is not being 100% truthful, you tell them, you know what, I feel like that needs to go into the journal, and they have to go write it down. And then every time that they say something that's maybe not true, they have to go write down either, hopefully they're writing down the truth inside the lying journal, but they might also be writing down the lie. And eventually that gets tedious and boring, and they don't really want to do it anymore, and so they just kind of stop.
Oh.
Because they don't want to have to
that's-
write it down
That's
every
really
lie.
interesting.
You bore them out of lying.
Bore them at lying is so boring. But
I love
that's-
that.
I was wondering where you were going with that, because I was like, lying journal, what does that mean? They just lie on paper, but then but that's interesting. So it turns them into, oh, this isn't fun. This is actually work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it is. I mean, you think about it. If you tell a lie,
Yeah.
you have to
Keep
continue
track of
to
it,
work
sure.
to keep that lie up. So eventually, you have to remember it, and now, well, you just have to write it down. And oftentimes, I'm a teacher, so a lot of times, students who have that tendency will actually start writing down the truth instead of the lie.
Oh, makes
You
sense.
can kind of catch them in the truth.
Yeah.
Oh,
Love
that's
it.
awesome. Thanks for the call.
Thanks.
That's Christina in Parma. So a lying journal. I've never heard of that. Let's go out to Meridian, where Fallon is with us. Fallon, how would you handle this? A young child got a little bit of a lying issue.
Okay, so one of the saddest parts about being a parent is when your kid can no longer go into their imagination. You start to realize they are growing up, and then they're just kind of stuck in reality with the rest of us. So that's the innocence and the cool part about being a kid. So if he's not lying when he is being confronted or, asked about something serious that could potentially get him in trouble, but he's more telling these stories about how his dad is an astronaut or the dogs ran away, where did the dogs go, I would definitely encourage him to not, shut off this imaginative part of his mind, but rather act it out in drawing or writing or, even doing sock puppets or something, just some way for him to act out this imaginative part of himself rather than just condemning it, really. And, definitely let him know, it's you want to be virtuous and truthful with people and forthright when you're being asked about something. But if he's just coming up with this stuff on his own as a kind of outlet to tell these stories, I think that's kind of cool in a way, because it's just his imagination kind of still at work, and that's not going to be there for forever.
Yeah. Oh,
that's true.
That's a good point,
'cause
to
you
look at
wanna
the line of
encourage,
things. Yeah, sure.
the creativity.
And, saying my dad's an astronaut, I mean, that's probably just him being excited about the idea.
No, but I like the idea of the puppets or acting it out or writing it down, maybe writing a story, maybe turning your
that's a
creativity
good
into
idea.
a storybook. That's really cool.
Thanks for the call. That is Fallon in Meridian. So Fallon in Meridian saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with a little imagination. And so if you're watching it, if he's telling everybody my dad's an astronaut and that's why he's not here today, that may be different than, man, Dad, you're an astronaut. Or I don't know.
Well, it's different if your lies are harming people or they're very serious, unless these are just things that are kind of fun and creative, which is actually what some people are texting in on the Idaho BMI text line 68719. This person says he's only 6. Kids watch cartoons, fantasy shows, and he will know the difference between pretend and reality. I encourage my kids' creativity.
I mean, this is coming from a grown adult that loves going to superhero movies and believes that Thanos really can snap his fingers and half the population will go into dust.